Welcome to the Explainer. Today, we're taking a seriously incredible top-down journey through computer networking. We're going to start way up in the theoretical clouds, looking at exactly how our digital apps talk and format data. And more importantly, we'll see why unencrypted data is an absolute goldmine for an attacker. Then, we're packing our bags, stepping into the boots of a penetration tester, and applying that exact networking theory in a practical hacking scenario, using one of the most famous security operating systems out there. We're going to exploit these very vulnerabilities. Get ready to literally see the invisible structures of the internet and exactly how they can be manipulated.
What happens when the applications you trust are forced to talk to a hacker? Seriously, think about it. Every single day, your web browsers, your streaming apps, your email clients, they're all constantly chatting across the globe, just totally assuming their pathways are completely secure. But what happens when that private conversation gets hijacked right under your nose without you ever knowing? Well, that's the thrilling climax we're building toward today.
Section 1. The Application Layer Explained. The Invisible Highway. Okay, so let's dive into this, because before we can break a system, we really have to understand the blueprint of how it actually works. On one side, you've got your end systems, right? Your laptops, smartphones, servers. And on the other side, you've got the core of the global internet, all those packet switches and routers. Now, this is a crucial distinction to make. Distributed applications do not live in the core network routers. The network core is basically just a system of dumb pipes. It honestly doesn't care what the data is, it just moves packets from point A to point B. The apps themselves reside entirely on the end systems, out at the edges of the network. That's where all those packets are finally assembled into something meaningful. Which brings us to a formal definition. The application layer is the top level in our network architecture. It's exactly where your familiar web browsers and email clients live, and they communicate through application layer protocols. Think HTTP for web documents and SMTP for email. But here's where we need to dig a little deeper. You see, these application layer protocols often transmit data in human-readable plain text. When an app formats a standard HTTP request, it isn't just automatically encrypting things. That means if an attacker intercepts traffic at this specific layer, they aren't just looking at scrambled binary code. No way. They are seeing your exact passwords, your private emails, and your active session cookies in perfectly readable text. That inherent vulnerability is exactly what attackers are looking for.
Section 2. Client and Server Conversations. How your apps talk. So, we know where these apps live, but how do they actually establish communication? Well, it almost always boils down to a client process and a server process. Think of it like this. When you open a browser to check the news, your device runs the client process. It reaches out into the network over a specific channel, like port 80 for standard HTTP traffic, and requests a service. And somewhere else, a server process receives that request and sends back the web page. But here is the massive, crucial vulnerability. The client inherently trusts that the server it's talking to is legitimate. It blindly trusts the local network to route its traffic to the right destination. This concept of blind trust? Yeah, that's exactly what we're going to break.
Section 3. Enter Kali Linux, the pen tester's X-ray glasses. Now that we've mapped out our theoretical blueprint, clients and servers blindly trusting each other at the application layer, it's time to switch gears. We're stepping out of the network architect role and right into the boots of the attacker. Welcome to Kali Linux. If the application layer is an invisible highway of data, think of Kali Linux as a specialized pair of X-ray glasses. It's the world's most powerful penetration testing platform. It comes preloaded with tools specifically designed to strip away that illusion of network security, break that inherent trust we were just talking about, and intercept that plain text application data. Right on the desktop wallpaper of Kali Linux, there's this fantastic quote that really sets the perfect tone for a security assessment. The quieter you become, the more you're able to hear. And it's so true. In the world of penetration testing, stealth is your absolute greatest asset. If an attacker generates too much noise or gets aggressive with the network, intrusion detection systems and firewalls are going to instantly flag that activity and boot them out. Stealth is what allows an attacker to remain invisible, letting them pull off prolonged interception of the application layer without anyone even batting an eye. But listen, Kali isn't just some basic collection of hacking tools. It's a highly flexible, enterprise-ready framework. Specifically, it's a rolling distribution based on Debian, which is incredibly important for an attacker. In the cybersecurity arms race, new vulnerabilities and exploits drop literally every single day. A rolling distribution means Kali gets updates daily, making sure the attacker's toolkit is always armed with the absolute latest methods to exploit a system. Section 4. Prepping the pen test environment. Packing your go bag.
Now, before any actual hacking goes down, a penetration tester really needs to prepare. I mean, you wouldn't climb a steep mountain without meticulously packing the right gear, right? Same thing here. You shouldn't start a security assessment without setting up a clean, customized workspace. Kali beautifully organizes the hacker's arsenal to mirror a logical attack methodology. As you can see, you move seamlessly from information gathering to vulnerability analysis, right on down to password and wireless attacks. You have to follow this order. You literally cannot execute a targeted password attack until you've done the deep information gathering to figure out what systems are even running. And preparing that digital go bag, it's incredibly fast, thanks to what we call meta packages. If a tester knows they're heading into a wireless security assessment, they just install the Kali Linux wireless meta package, and boom, it automatically pulls in every single tool needed for that specific job. This is vital because physical assessments are highly time-sensitive. If an attacker is sitting in a corporate lobby or out in a parking lot, they might only have a really narrow 5-minute window to execute an attack. Tailoring the environment in advance means they aren't scrambling to download dependencies when every single second counts. Section 5. Attacking the application layer, the man in the middle. All right, our blueprint is drawn, our go bag is packed. It is time to merge theory with practice. We're going to execute an attack against that application layer we learned about earlier. But to manipulate local trust, our virtual Kali machine first needs to be on the exact same network as our targets. By changing our network adapter settings to bridged mode, we're completely bypassing the host machine's virtual network isolation. This drops Kali's virtual network card directly onto the physical local network, making it a true peer on the victim's subnet. This is an absolute, non-negotiable technical prerequisite for the attack we're about to launch. We pull off this break-in through a really precise 3-step process. Step 1, as we just saw, is getting directly onto the local bridge network. Step 2 is using a tool called ARP-Spoof to deceive the target machine. And Step 3 is using a tool called EtherCap to actually capture and hijack the application layer traffic. Now, it's essential to understand that Step 2, fooling the machine, is the exact mechanism that even allows Step 3 to happen. Let's look a bit closer at how these tools mechanically exploit the network. Step 2 relies on network poisoning, specifically targeting the Address Resolution Protocol, or ARP. Computers on a local network use ARP to map IP addresses to physical MAC addresses. Well, ARP-Spoof completely abuses this perfectly normal function. When we run the ARP-Spoof command, it unleashes a continuous stream of forged ARP replies to the target Linux client. It's essentially shouting over the network, "Hey, I'm the local router, send all your traffic to me." The Linux client blindly trusts these messages, overwrites its internal routing tables, and just starts routing all of its outbound application layer traffic directly to our Kali machine instead of the actual internet gateway. With the client's traffic now flowing straight through our Kali machine, we bring in EtherCap for Step 3. EtherCap acts as an invisible proxy. Because we successfully hijacked the route with our ARP spoof, EtherCap receives the traffic, strips away basic protections if it can, and logs all that plain text application data we talked about earlier. Every unencrypted HTTP password, every plain text message, it's all exposed and logged. Then, and this is the brilliant part, EtherCap quietly forwards that traffic out to the actual internet router. The web page still loads for the victim, and they have absolutely zero idea they're being watched. Section 6. Defending the blueprint. Back to the CIA triad. Okay, take a breath. We've successfully broken in. But as security professionals, our actual goal is to secure the system, right? Defending that application layer blueprint ultimately comes down to the CII triad: confidentiality, integrity, and availability. The attack we just ran, that was a massive breach of confidentiality and integrity. To mitigate this exact risk, network administrators have to deploy specific defenses. Defending against our ARP spoofing requires network-level protections, like dynamic ARP inspection, which actually verifies ARP packets. And defending against our EtherCap proxy requires strict encryption protocols, like HTTPS and HTTP strict transport security. That ensures that even if the application layer traffic is intercepted, it stays totally scrambled and entirely useless to the attacker. Understanding both the fundamental theory of how networks move data and the practical reality of how tools exploit that movement, that is the only way to build resilient systems. So I want to leave you with this final thought to ponder. If an attacker can invisibly intercept your application layer today, what will they extract tomorrow? Stay curious, stay secure, and thanks for joining me on this explainer.